Welcome back to FAWKES News. Fox News today, we're talking about the FBI going after the Polymarket CEO in a nighttime raid. Fox News is usually news without emotion, just receipts. But I think today I'm just going to get a little bit silly with it because I think it's absolutely ridiculous at this point. And the FBI, it's apparent that they are losing their minds. They are freaking out. They've been doing this since the beginning of the whole Trump era. What are they trying to hide? What is the FBI? Why is the FBI linked up so hardcore politically that they are so afraid of Donald Trump? I mean, what was it that why did the FBI feel the need to absolutely hide what was going on Hunter Biden's laptop to the point of that all these conspiracy theories have erupted on what was going on his laptop because some things were leaked and we were able to see some things that maybe we shouldn't, but the FBI went over and beyond the call of duty to hide these things from the American public. The same FBI that is hiding to you the Nashville Manifesto. The FBI is the one, not the police department, not anybody else, not the detectives, but the FBI decided you, the American people, do not get to know what was going on in the National Manifesto. Why wouldn't the FBI release the full information of Ashley Biden diary and go as far as to make up some cockamamie excuse to arrest Amy Harris for finding this diary that talks about the alleged inappropriate showers, tries to give it to the police department. The police department returns it to her and says it is now your property. And then she sells it across state lines to Project Veritas. And the FBI just uses this to, one, arrest Amy Harris for absolutely committing zero crime here. They had to make up a crime. And then they went and raided Project Veritas early in the morning when Project Veritas gave them the tape and said, hey, will you verify this before we run the story? Is this or is this not Ashley Biden's real diary? We don't want to run a story if it's not true. And they gave the FBI the diary, and the FBI came and absolutely destroyed everything in their media company, everything in their houses, took all of their equipment, all of their cameras and their cell phones and everything to destroy a conservative media outlet. The weaponized FBI has gone over and beyond for the Biden-Harris administration. And now we have the FBI. So the Polymarkets, we've been covering this from the beginning, from day one. And so has non-mainstream media outlets like Breaking Point's Personal. So like there is so much information on breaking down what the Polymarket is and how it was affecting polls. Here's the thing, though. Nobody was tricked by the polls in this election, and nobody on the left or the right trusted the polls in this election. We knew those polls weren't 50-50. We knew that the right, specifically the right, was saying that it was 50-50 because they themselves, they being the mainstream media, they being anybody on the propaganda media side, Fox News and everything, you kept hearing it. Well, there's no red wave. I don't want to hear any talks about red wave because you need to get out there and vote. All the talking heads, all the mainstream media, they would say it over and over again. And that means what they were telling you is they're not going to give you an accurate poll number, and they're not going to give you that number because they're afraid that you will get lazy and you will not go and vote. And you got that sense if you were on the right. And the left did the same thing. The left was like, oh, it's so close right now. They knew that those polls weren't close. But if they say they weren't close, then you would get lazy and not go vote because you're like, oh, Donald Trump already won. So both sides, for their own reasons, for political reasons, were telling you that these polls were 50-50. So it was the polls that were retarded, not the bettors on Polymarket. They knew the political climate because it's like if it's raining outside, I don't need to bet on if it's raining or not raining if I can see the rain going on outside. You could tell by the number of bumper stickers and the number of flags and the number of the political climate. You could literally see Trump, everything raining from the heavens. You could feel what was going on. You could see what was going on in the political climate. And that's what these bettors were betting on because they knew that these polls were just fugazi, as they say, fugazi. But now, because the Polymarket was correct, and they were the only poll that was correct, everybody else is embarrassed. Everybody's embarrassed now because Harvard University, all these other polls coming out, these big giant polls. They're like, well, that's not fair. How can some Polymarket betting website predict so accurately these polls? They went against us, and now they're because they're the ones. None of them wanted to tell you the truth about the polls, because that's where we've gotten into this banana republic. That's what we are now. We're a banana republic. We're just a bunch of rich elites trying to string you along, only giving you about the information that they think that you should have, or that you can. Not because we don't really have the freedom of press anymore and journalism is dead. But it's not. That's why we have FAWKES News, because we give you the news with the receipts. And so here we go. I like how the New York Post put it. Let me read you this really quickly. Polymarket FBI raid shows Biden Justice Department has gone full banana republic. I have been saying this for a while, that this has gone. That the FBI has gone full banana. We saw that with the Gretchen Whitmer case. The Biden Justice Department. This is coming from the New York Post. The Biden Justice Department has decided to go out of the way. It came in as a blunt weapon wielded against perceived political enemies. That, at least, is what the FBI raid against Polymarket CEO Shane Copeland looks like. And I'm glad that the New York Post is calling it how it is and saying what I've been saying for months now. At 6 a.m. Wednesday, agents stormed his home to demand his phone and other devices. Why? Officially, as a part of a criminal probe into the platform for allowing U.S. users to bet on politics via VPN. In contravention of a previous agreement Polymarket made with regulators at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So what they're talking about here is that it was illegal to bet on the Polymarket here in the United States. You couldn't do it as an American. However, a lot of Americans are using VPNs. Josh, very quickly, what is a VPN? Okay, Josh must not be with us right now. But the VPN is what you use. Go ahead, Deadleg.
I got you. So VPN is basically when you star 69 a computer, the VPN tells you where the computer is coming from. A VPN masks that and says it's coming from another place. So instead of us broadcasting from Raleigh, North Carolina, we could be broadcasting from Toronto, or we could be broadcasting from Egypt. Use VPNs like to access like Netflix and things that are different in other regions, but people use VPNs to mask where they are. They're also used, and that was the big thing in the FTX raid, was VPNs were being used with moving Bitcoin and things like that, and they couldn't track that. And that's one of the big things about VPNs is you can't track them.
Yeah. So it's basically giving you your internet security, your internet privacy that you really want to have, right? You know, because now if you go to Manhattan or you go to New York and you see the big giant cameras hanging out outside of every CVS because they can't afford, because we defunded the police and now we've got cameras doing the thing. Like, your privacy is completely gone. But I think we all knew that. We're all okay with it. We all just kind of allowed that to happen. But some people don't want their privacy to be lost. Some people don't want drones flying into their backyard, flown by who knows who. By the way, if you shoot one of these down, the FBI absolutely will come to your door and arrest you. I guess drones are allowed to fly into your backyard now. Different story for a different time. Getting amped up here. But now we have this use of VPNs, which, by the way, all these little perverts from the fucking left that are butt fucking each other inside of the House chambers that are using the VPN to hide what kind of disgusting pornography they're using. By the way, the right does that too. It's just the left seems to be a little bit more overt about it on the left side of things. But they're using the VPNs too. So they're not above this. They're not above the hypocrisy here. They're using VPNs too. So now we have a Polymarket site where you have Americans left and right voting using a VPN. I don't think that it's Polymarket's job to know who's using a VPN and who's not. However, that's not what this is about. This is about the FBI. This is about the left being embarrassed that they were shown up, that their polls were exposed by the masses, by you, the ignorant peasant citizens, that you guys unlifted the veil that they were hiding in their bullshit polls that we'll never trust again. And these shouldn't be trusted again. And they're going after him to show you that if you go against us in the next 4 years, we're going to come and get you. And that's what they did at Project Veritas. And let me give you a perfect example of that. I'm shooting this Helene documentary, Helene Doc on Instagram, Helene_Doc. Go follow it. But there are school teachers who have a story to tell about FEMA Or how about the lack of National Guard, or how they've seen the National Guard staging in the schools and not going out anywhere, or FEMA staging at the schools and not going out and going anywhere. But they don't want to talk because they're afraid they'll get fired. And the reason why they're afraid to talk is because we've allowed this during the COVID pandemic, during cancel culture pandemic, if you want to call it a pandemic, but we have allowed the left, the mainstream media mob, the leftist mob to dictate and to scare you into what speech you use and you don't use because you're afraid of political persecution, of getting fired. So you have a truth, you have a story to tell, but you can't tell it because you're afraid. And that's the climate the FBI has created. And they've created this through speaking out against the Bidens. Look what they did to Amy Harris, finding that day. She didn't do anything wrong by finding that diary. She didn't do anything wrong by handing it over to the police. She didn't do anything wrong by accepting it back from the police when they gave it back to her. And she didn't do anything wrong when she sold it to a media outlet, because that's what whistleblowers and people have been doing with the media since the beginning of time. And you haven't been, the FBI didn't raid NBC or CNN or Fox News. You know, do you remember when they went and did the Mar-a-Lago raid and they staged the pictures of the boxes and that was caught and a whistleblower came forward and gave that news over to Fox News? Why wasn't Fox News raided by the FBI then? Because they can't bully the mainstream media because they're a part of it's all the same clog in the same machine. But now you got some outlier like Project Veritas that's not part of the mainstream, kind of like our show, FAWKES, or other shows that are out on podcasts, which is why Justin Trudeau and the Canadians are trying desperately to put more regulations on podcasts, because too many people are getting to know the truth. The truth is getting out there too fast. Josh, bring up this other article on the Polymarket from the New York Post for me.
Which one do you want?
The FBI, yes, the one that you read earlier. Go ahead, read this. Just that first part.
So, FBI agents raided the Manhattan apartment of Polymarket CEO Shane Copeland early Wednesday, just a week after election betting platform accurately predicted President Donald Trump's stunning victory, the Post has learned. The 26-year-old entrepreneur was roused from his bed in a Soho apartment at 6 a.m. by U.S. law enforcement personnel who demanded to turn over his phone and other electronic devices. A source close to the matter told the Post. It's, quote, grand political theater at its worst, he told the Post. Quote, they could have asked his lawyers for any of those things. Instead, they stage a so-called raid so they can leak to the media for obvious political purposes. Copeland was not provided a reason for the raid, but the sources suspect that it's political retribution for Polymarket predicting an easy win over Trump, over Vice President Kamala Harris and the trading polls. So they provided no source to the guy that they were actually in his house, but the people that are in the media are the ones that the sources are giving information to. Tell me that's not political press. Like, the guy that you're trying to prosecute doesn't even know why he's being raided, but the New York Post does. Do we not find that odd? Do we not find that odd that these whistleblowers only go in one direction all the time, every time? I mean, is it just irony that a sitting member of Congress was put on the Quiet Skies domestic terror watch list?
Yeah, let's jump into that. Let's jump into this. So we've got an entire Trump team now. Everybody's getting nobody is free of this. Now we have Tulsi Gabbard, who, again, you want to talk about political persecution. Political persecution. Tulsi Gabbard she's a patriot. She was in the military. She's a combat veteran. She's on the Democrat side of things, but then she absolutely wipes the floor with Kamala's face during the debates. And then all of a sudden she's now on a terrorist watch list. And every time she flies, she has to be searched. Guess what? Which, by the way, a little poetic justice here going forward. And again, I hope the Trump administration, I really do hope that we're not the bigger person this time. I think the political persecution from the left needs to be dealt with political persecution, with judgment, with justice. You broke the rules and now you're going to pay for it, because now they have made Tulsi Gabbard in charge of national intelligence, which I think is great. By the way, the Trump's team, according to CNN, let me read you this. Trump's team skips FBI background checks for some cabinet picks. I wonder why. I wonder why, Josh. Why would the Trump administration skip background checks from the FBI when it's in regards to Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard? Why do you think that they would skip the FBI?
Well, I don't know. Do we have a history of them tampering with evidence? Do we have a history of them going after only one political party? Do we have a history of them being the 9 people in the room, but they're going to go after the one guy because we're not going to call that Gretchen Whitmore? They're not involved in that. They weren't involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid. They weren't involved in looking the other direction with the Hunter Biden scandal. They weren't involved with looking the other way.
Let's talk about the Hunter Biden scandal really quick. The cocaine. Do you remember the cocaine? And I just assumed that it was probably Hunter Biden's cocaine or somebody on the left's cocaine, because if it was somebody on the right's cocaine, they would have absolutely done everything they could to pull video surveillance. They would have interviewed the person who found it, whose locker it was in. It would have been a big giant investigation, and we would know. You know how I know this is because a football player, a former NFL football player, was what was he arrested? Was he indicted?
No, he was just arrested. This is the first one. We're probably going to do another story on it. This is the first person that's been indicted since all of the indictments were initially done. They waited a couple more years, and then last week they indicted him on January 6 charges. And you were saying we have the ability to find out who someone is by something hanging off of their belt and grainy cell phone.
Tell us about
video.
this. So this was an ex-NFL football player who had a key card hanging from his belt loop, a key fob. And they were able to identify who this guy was by the key fob that was dangling off of his belt in some blurry cell phone video footage. But you can't tell me whose cocaine you found in the White House. Get the F out of here. You're doing it for a reason. You know that. And the only reason is because it's probably somebody. I mean, it's absolutely somebody from the left. It's probably Hunter Biden's cocaine. Let's be real here. That's not what Fox News is all about. Like, I'm not trying to stir shit up. I'm really not trying to, but the overt political weaponization of the FBI infuriates me so much because it's so clear and it's such a present danger that it doesn't matter if you're on the left and the right. That is not healthy for a democracy or for a republic or whatever you want to call this. I know if I call it a democracy, you're going to be like, it's a constitutional republic or whatever it is. But you get what I'm saying here. It's not healthy. And right now, things are being ran more like this is a banana republic. And I have said that forever, not since this article. It's why I was so excited when this article mentioned that we're living in a banana republic, because we absolutely are. This is just a fugazi, all made up for the rich elites to just get richer and to just get to just become more successful and the betting lines. But here what this case is that they're not the ones that made the money. And now you got other rich people in the game, people that are $80 million richer in the game, people that are $3 billion richer in the game, and now they're not part of the inner circle. They're not supposed to be in our rich elite inner circle where we get to control things.
So I have who's going to be prosecuted next? Anybody on Trump's cabinet list. Let's just go ahead. If you are on that list,
they're already doing it to Matt Gaetz. They're already just crucifying him right now.
Yep. For what? If he was as bad as he was today, then he was as bad as he was last week. So if all the stuff that you're saying about him is true, why didn't you say it 2 weeks ago? Because you held it back for political prosecution. You held it back for points. You held it back to be able to get on the news and say, look, this guy allegedly did this. Not only we have people leaking all this information to the New York Post. The person that's actually being prosecuted in this one doesn't even know what's going on. How many? I mean, that's a serious problem. When we are leaking information to the Post, why? Why can we not? Let's get the FBI to find out who leaked this information. Who's this source? Who is leaking information to the news without authorization? Because this is an active investigation potentially. Not only that, how do we get into someone's house? Normally, we have to have probable cause to go in front of a judge to get a warrant, but he's not suspected of a crime. So how
no. They suspect him of a crime, but they say, well, it can't be fair. How could he have been so right? He must have cheated, and therefore we're going to get a warrant and search his house. Then that's not how a warrant works. The warrant is we have proof, or it's more probable than not. This isn't a reasonable suspicion scenario here. This is a more probable than not scenario, and therefore it's more probable than not that he has this evidence and this intelligence, this intel, this illegal information, and therefore we're going to go and do that. They have to have receipts. They have to have evidence, and they don't. And now, and listen, if you think I'm being hyperbolic here, and you think I'm being too emotional here, here's what's going on. Pete Hedgepeth, Secretary of Defense. Go look what mainstream media. Every article that mainstream media has put out against Hedgepeth has been absolutely just a flat out, a blatant lie, where they're like, Hedgepeth, a Fox News commentator. Hedgepeth, a Fox News commentator. If I were to identify, let's just say for a moment, who's the artist with the big afro back in the day? Everybody loved him.
Afro Man?
No, he was an artist. He had a little pet squirrel, and come on, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, Bob Ross.
Bob Ross, right? So let's just say that Bob Ross went and did one Fox News commentary, or he did let's say he did 20. Let's say he was on Fox News 20 times doing political commentary. Would anybody call Bob Ross a Fox News commentator, or would they call the artist Bob Ross?
Your entire career has been something else, but now you do this for a little bit. And now this is what you're going to be known as.
Right. But you would say, yeah. And so here's the thing: the media is calling Pete Hedgepeth, a Fox News commentator, and literally alluding to the fact that he's done nothing else, because they're saying Trump appoints Secretary of Defense, a man with no experience, a Fox News commentator. Well, so what you're doing is you're leading in to this Fox News commentator as if that's all he's done for his entire existence. And that is lying, folks, because he served 20-something, 23, 24 years in the military. He has multiple combat rotations. He has rotations to Iraq, Afghanistan. He's got rotations to Guantanamo Bay. I mean, this guy has so much military experience, 2 Bronze Stars and a combat infantry badge, an expert infantry badge. I mean, not only was this guy in the military, but he was infantry. He's a real knuckle dragger. This is a front lines kind of guy. This isn't just some, Joe Schmoke-Telly hiding behind, Intel, or hiding behind a computer, or behind some kind of drone. This is a guy that's actually been in the shit. This is an infantryman. But you're going to tell us as if he's nothing more than a Fox News commentator, and he's completely not qualified. By the way, he has several different degrees as well. So he's a college-educated officer who served in combat in the infantry for 20 plus years with all of these ribbons. He's not a Fox News commentator with no experience. And now today they're bringing up, he may be under investigation for sexual assault allegations. So that's what the left has always done. Russell Brand speaks out against the left. Allegedly, we've got some people coming up from 20 years ago that we don't know that went out to a UK London reporter and said that he was involved in some sexual assault, but they don't even have a real victim. Or Justice Kavanaugh on the same thing, where it's like 30 years ago at a party that nobody remembers anything about the party, to a girl that doesn't even remember being at the party. All of a sudden, sexual assault allegations. And then all of a sudden, now we've got Matt Gaetz potentially under investigation for sexual assault allegations. The Rubin, the governor guy running for Mark Rubio, running for what was his name? Robinson. I forgot his name. The governor.
Oh, yeah, Robinson, North Carolina.
All of a sudden, just weeks before, we found that he's made some comments on a porn site a long time ago, but we're not even sure if it's him or it's not him. But they never ever do a follow-up investigation. So that's the kind of the left's motive right here. It's either racism or sexual assault. It's not like when you have Bill Clinton, who sticks a cigar in a woman's pussy and jizzes on her jacket, and then she has that proof in the Oval Office, and he lies under oath, and he's caught lying under oath. That's a real allegation. But this whole maybe under sexual assault allegation, it's a pretty bold thing to put out by the media. And again, we already know that the media has been weaponized, but this is more about the FBI and how far are they willing to go, and how far are we, the people, going to allow them to go. And I can only hope that with Trump's new America, with Trump going forward, that we do finally see some real justified political persecution, where the Trump administration goes after these bastards for being absolute treasonous traitors to this country, retarding the election and hiding things from us that really have to do with national security. The way the mainstream media has literally caused people to commit suicide because of the lies that they have told, the blatant lies that the mainstream media has done, not with good conscience, not with respectable journalism, But out of hate in their heart and malice and misinformation, blatant misinformation, they have literally caused people to kill their families and themselves and to commit harm to other people. The FBI is the one that stoked all these fires alongside of the CIA and the politically backed propaganda media to start riots where they burn down land grab opportunities. The stuff that we're seeing in Lahaina, the stuff that we're seeing, all of it is coming true. And you called these guys conspiracy theorists and far right-wing extremists, and that is now over. Our voices are going to be heard going forward. I only hope. And if not, I will be Trump's biggest thorn in his side, and I will be calling him out for all the bullshit that he said he was going to do and he's not doing. So he better hold true to doing these, because right here on FAWKES News, we're not some kind of Trump worshipers. We're just Trump hopefuls that he comes through and exposes all these things. By the way, our next segment that we're going to do here on FAWKS News is Oprah Winfrey. Has she fled the United States because of the Diddy thing, or is she fleeing the United States because of Trump's America, or has she even left the country? Is it just rumor? Give you a hint. I don't think it's very much rumor, and we're going to go through it on the next Fox Media. Just wrap it all up. Let me get your quick thoughts on this, Josh, the political weaponization of the FBI.
Tell me that this isn't, I would say, show me the receipts. The problem that we have had this entire last 4 years, of we have been complaining about over and over again, is rules for thee and not for me. When you literally have the Mar-a-Lago raid and the Biden classified documents are essentially the same thing, but the problem is one was an actual president and the other wasn't. One was on national media and they raided his house. The other, we seen pictures of the documents next to the back of his Corvette. We have a problem with this. This is what we were worried about on the backside of this. This is one thing that I said, is what happens when Trump gets in on the backside? They've got 2 months to try to gut from with whatever's left here. This is toddlers having a temper tantrum going, if I can't have it, nobody can. So we're going to send all of our money to Ukraine. We're going to make sure we're going to send the FBI after everybody else, because what we're going to try to do is pack this court system with as much issues and all this stuff that you have to do. Then you can't get America First through. You can't get any of these issues taken care of. Then 4 years from now, they can go, look, Trump didn't get any of that stuff done. So my hope is that when Tulsi Gabbard and all these people start getting to these places, it's massive exodus. There are places that are saying right now that they're leaving and they're going to quit, and this, great, go. If you are in your position and you think that you're there for political and you're going to have, no one elected you, go. You have no right to sway anything. I didn't elect you. Eric didn't elect you. No one voted for you. At least now we can sleep at night saying people actually did vote for Kamala. It's just this is the one that they lost. So all the time that she didn't get votes, the one time that she did get votes, she lost. So she can sleep on that and say she actually got votes now.
Guys, listen, if you're listening to us on audio, this is a new to audio platform, new to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and the like button. If you're on Spotify or iTunes and you're just listening to this, please give me a 5-star rating and give me a review. It really helps us in the charts right now. From Griff 13762, he says a 5-star rating. The most unbiased and straightforward news there is. I no longer listen to legacy media. Redacted, the best source, 5 stars. I'm critically acclaiming this podcast as my favorite source of news. Willauer, I don't know how to pronounce that name, says, I love this guy, 5 stars. Been a fan of these shows since day one of the Failure to Stop, Guns Up, Giddy Up, and Transy. Thank you so much. Kentucky Girl, 35. Name sounds cute. I don't know why. Kentucky Girl sounds cute. Awesome. 5 stars. Once again, Eric Tanzi has done it. Finally, news that is actually factual. Glad he started this podcast. All Failure to Stop shows are amazing. Thank you, Tanzi. Oh, she put her real name at the bottom. Liz, knew she was cute. She's been a follower since day one. Reviewer to Lincoln, TWO Lincoln, review 5 stars. I've been listening for years. I love the law enforcement content. Because of my loyalty, of course, I'm gonna follow your news page too. Giddy up, peeps. Hashtag not a cop. Wink, wink. Then we got another one, redacted, best news ever. 5 stars. I may be biased, but this is my favorite news source. I wonder who's biased and why they wrote that. But anyway, here we go. So please, every week I will read those. If you're a super fan, big fan, go to Spotify or iTunes and leave us a rating and review. I'll read them live on air. Coming up next, though, we have Oprah Winfrey. Is she fleeing the United States? Is the FBI investigating her for the whole Diddy stuff? What's going on with Oprah Winfrey? Next on FAWKES News. Maybe, let's say, I think JoJo says it's the best. Maybe you didn't know about the FBI being politically weaponized, but now you do know. And knowing is half the battle. Take us out of here, Josh.